Stop scrolling for a second and listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will change the way you see every single relationship, every single interaction, and every single moment of your life. You think being kind makes you good. You think saying yes, being patient, being generous, automatically earns respect. But here's the truth most people refuse to hear. Your kindness might be the very reason people disrespect you. Yes, you heard me right. The very softness you pride yourself on, the generosity you believe defines your character, the patience you think makes you strong, it's being taken for granted. People walk over it, manipulate it, and exploit it without you even realizing. And the scariest part? Most of the time, you're training them to do it. Every yes you give to someone who doesn't deserve it, every boundary you refuse to set, every ounce of energy you spend without thinking, they see it as weakness and they act accordingly. But here's the shocking part that will blow your mind. The same kindness, the same patience, the same generosity becomes your greatest power when it's paired with strength, awareness, and self-respect. The moment you understand why people take advantage of you, the moment you stop giving endlessly to those who don't deserve it, everything changes. You stop being walked over. You stop being drained. You stop being overlooked. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why people disrespect kindness, how to protect your energy, and how to turn your compassion into a force that commands respect, influence, and admiration. What you're about to hear will shock you, because no one has ever explained this to you like this before. If you watch carefully and really listen, your life will never be the same again. You need to hear this because it's a truth most people refuse to admit, and yet it affects every relationship, every interaction, every opportunity you've ever had. Kindness in its purest form is beautiful, it's noble, it's human. But here's the dangerous part. When kindness is given without boundaries, without awareness, without self-respect, it stops being a strength. It becomes a weakness. It becomes a tool for other people to use against you. Think about the last time you said yes to something you didn't really want to do. Maybe it was a favor, a request for your time, a demand on your energy. You said yes because you didn't want to hurt feelings, because you wanted to be liked, because you wanted to be seen as good. But in that moment, you trained the person asking you that their desires are more important than your own. You taught them that your limits don't matter. And here's the cruel irony. They likely didn't even notice it. To them, your yes was simply what they expected from you. And this is how kindness without boundaries quietly erodes your life. It's not just about favors or obligations. Think deeper. How often do you hold back your true feelings to avoid confrontation? How often do you let someone walk over your opinions, your values, your time, just to keep the peace? That's kindness too. And the more consistently you do it, the more people expect it. They start to assume that your compassion is unconditional, that your patience is infinite, that your generosity has no limit. And when people assume, they take without thinking, without care, without gratitude. This doesn't mean you shouldn't be kind. Far from it. True kindness is not soft. True kindness is deliberate. True kindness comes with awareness, with choice, with control. The problem arises when kindness becomes reactive rather than intentional. When you react to people's needs at the expense of your own, you create a pattern. You create a dynamic where people rely on your compliance, not your care. They don't value your generosity, they exploit it. There's a psychological principle here that most people never recognize. When someone repeatedly receives kindness without consequence, their brain begins to associate that kindness not with virtue, but with opportunity, your consistency in giving. Without setting boundaries is interpreted as a guarantee. This person will always give. This person will always say yes. There is nothing to fear here. And once the brain labels it a guarantee, respect disappears. The kindness that once may have inspired admiration now becomes permission to overstep, to demand, to disrespect. Now, imagine if instead of giving indiscriminately, you gave consciously. Imagine if every act of kindness came from a place of strength, from a place of choice. Imagine saying yes only when it aligns with your values, with your priorities, with your energy. That's not cruelty. That's not selfishness. That's self-respect. And self-respect is magnetic. It draws people toward you in a different way, not because you are a pushover, but because your kindness has meaning, because your yes has weight, because people understand that you are not here to serve their whims. You are here to live your life with integrity, and your generosity is a reflection of your strength, not your weakness. But getting to that place requires a shift in perspective, and most people resist it. We've been taught to equate kindness with goodness. We've been taught that saying no is rude, that prioritizing ourselves is selfish, that putting boundaries in place is unkind. And the truth is, society loves to reward the exploitable. It loves to celebrate those who bend, who yield, who tolerate. Yet at the same time, it punishes those who stand firm. People criticize those who say no. People gossip about those who refuse demands. But here's the paradox: the people who respect themselves most, who protect their time, their energy, and their hearts, are the ones who command real respect from others. Let's take a moment and reflect on your own life. How many times has your kindness been taken for granted? How many times have you helped someone only to be met with ingratitude, manipulation, or even subtle contempt? The reason is simple. Kindness without boundaries is empty. It's not guided by principle. It's given because it's expected. And once it's expected, it loses all power. The first step in reclaiming the power of your kindness is awareness. You must notice when your generosity is being exploited. You must identify patterns in your relationships where your patience is treated as a weakness. You must be honest with yourself about where you are giving too much, too often, without reciprocity. Awareness is not enough, though. It must be followed by action. Awareness without action is just regret waiting to happen. And action doesn't mean being harsh or cruel. Action means defining your limits and communicating them clearly. It means learning to say no without guilt, to protect your time and energy, to prioritize your life without apology. It means understanding that your worth is not measured by how much you give away, but by how well you honor yourself. When you combine kindness with boundaries, everything changes. People stop walking over you. People start treating you differently, not because you demanded it, but because you quietly enforced it with strength. Kindness becomes a shield instead of a V. Vulnerability. It becomes something that people aspire to, something that commands admiration rather than contempt. And here's the beauty of it. Once you learn to give this way, life rewards you in ways you never imagined. Your relationships become healthier, your energy multiplies, your influence grows, and your inner peace becomes unshakable. So understand this: being kind is not a weakness, but being kind without boundaries is. Being soft without strength is dangerous. Being generous without discretion is futile. And the world will teach you this lesson repeatedly until you either learn it consciously or suffer through it unconsciously. The choice is yours. Remember, kindness is most powerful when it is intentional, when it is rooted in self-respect, when it is guided by strength rather than need. Never confuse weakness for virtue. Never let your good heart be a doorway for exploitation. Stand firm, give wisely, protect yourself, and watch as the world begins to treat you not as someone to take advantage of, but as someone to respect, admire, and value. The people who disrespect you today are not your enemies. They are merely mirrors, reflecting the areas where your boundaries are weak, where your kindness has been misunderstood, where your strength has yet to be fully claimed. Learn from it, change it, own it, and let your kindness finally become what it was always meant to be, a force that uplifts, inspires, and commands respect. Because here's the bottom line: the world will not respect the kindness that bends. It will only honor the kindness that stands. You need to understand this, because it's a truth that most people never confront, yet it shapes every interaction you have. Respect is not automatic. It's not something people hand out just because you're polite, generous, or agreeable. Many of us operate under the illusion that simply being nice or kind earns respect, but the reality is far harsher. The world doesn't respect kindness that has no foundation. The world respects strength, clarity, and self-worth. It respects the person who knows their value and refuses to let anyone diminish it. Think about it for a moment. How often have you seen someone polite, soft-spoken, always agreeable, and yet completely overlooked, ignored, or dismissed? How often have you observed that the person who asserts themselves, who refuses to be pushed around, who clearly communicates their boundaries, is the one who commands attention, influence, and, most importantly, respect? The difference is not in their talent, intelligence, or even kindness. It's in their understanding that respect is something earned, not given. This is why so many people suffer quietly. They give and give. They accommodate and bend. They smile through exploitation, believing that their good nature is enough to protect them. But kindness alone is not a shield. Niceness alone is not armor. Respect comes from establishing standards, and standards require boundaries. When you allow people to act in ways that undermine your value, you are telling them, without words, that disrespect is acceptable. The moment you stop doing that, the dynamic changes. Here's the key. Respect is a reflection of self-worth. If you are clear on your value, if you are unwavering in the way you expect to be treated, people will mirror that back to you. The world pays attention to strength, not softness. And strength doesn't have to be loud, aggressive, or hostile. Strength can be silent. Strength can be calm. Strength can simply be the quiet confidence that you will not tolerate less than what you deserve. Many people confuse respect with fear, but there is a subtle difference. Fear might make someone pause, but respect makes them think twice before attempting to cross you. Respect is earned when people understand the cost of disrespecting you, not the consequences of angering you. It is the recognition that your time, energy, and values are non-negotiable, and any attempt to diminish them will not be overlooked. Think about the people in your life who truly command respect. How do they operate? They do not seek approval. They do not chase validation. They are present, decisive, and consistent in how they engage with the world. People respect them because they see a person who honors themselves first. They see a person who will not compromise principles for convenience. They see a person who is predictable in strength, unpredictable in weakness. This principle extends to every area of life, personal relationships, professional environments, even casual encounters. A colleague who consistently oversteps your time or effort will eventually stop if you establish limits. A friend who treats your generosity as a given will adjust when they realize that your kindness has boundaries. A partner who takes your patience for granted will reconsider once they recognize that your respect for yourself is non-negotiable. Without this understanding, kindness becomes exploitable and respect becomes optional. Now, let's consider the psychological side of this. Humans are wired to test limits. We naturally probe for weaknesses in others. When someone consistently gives without consequence, the brain interprets it as a weakness, an opportunity, a safe space for manipulation. Conversely, when someone demonstrates clear standards for how they are treated, the brain adjusts its behavior to align with those standards. Respect is learned behavior. It is taught, not assumed. Every time you enforce your standards, you are teaching the people around you how to treat you. This doesn't mean that earning respect requires confrontation or aggression. On the contrary, the most respected people are often those who project calm authority. They do not demand respect. They embody it. They hold themselves to a standard of self-respect, and in doing so, they compel others to recognize it. You don't have to shout, argue, or justify your boundaries. You simply live them. You demonstrate through action that your time, your energy, and your integrity are invaluable. That alone commands respect. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that being liked is the same as being respected. The two are not the same. You can be liked by many but respected by few. And in truth, respect carries far more weight than mere admiration or affection. Liking is emotional and fleeting. Respect is rational and enduring. People may smile and nod, but if you have not established a framework in which your worth is non-negotiable, they will not treat you accordingly. They will admire your kindness but disregard your boundaries. They will enjoy your presence but ignore your value. Here's a critical point. Self-respect is the foundation of all external respect. Until you recognize your worth, until you set standards for how you allow others to treat you, you are effectively handing control over your respect to those around you. And the result is always the same. People will take, exploit, and undervalue you. Only when you internalize your own worth does the external world begin to mirror it back to you. Your kindness gains its true power when it is informed by this awareness. Your generosity carries weight. Your patience is admired rather than abused. Your strength becomes visible, even in silence. Respect is also cumulative. Every time you uphold your standards, every time you assert your value without apology, every time you refuse to compromise on what you deserve, you reinforce a pattern. People learn. The world learns. And slowly, the dynamic shifts. They may not like it at first. They may push back. They may test your limits. But consistently, they will adjust because they cannot ignore the presence of someone who honors themselves. Ultimately, understanding this truth changes everything. Your relationships become healthier. Your interactions become clearer. Your energy, once drained by exploitation and disrespect, is preserved for growth, for achievement, for meaningful connections. You stop asking for respect and begin to command it naturally. You stop fearing rejection and begin to cultivate influence and authority in every sphere of life. And you finally realize that respect is not a gift. It is a reflection of the strength and integrity you bring into the world. So remember this, the world will not automatically respect your kindness, your effort, or your generosity. Respect is something you must claim by valuing yourself first. Respect is something you earn by setting boundaries, by demonstrating unwavering self-worth, by refusing to tolerate exploitation. The moment you understand that, you no longer live in a reactive state, giving endlessly to those who take without consideration. Instead, you live intentionally, giving where it matters, investing where it counts, and preserving your energy for the people and opportunities that deserve it. Let this sink in. Being liked is optional. Being respected is essential. Kindness is powerful only when it is guided by strength. And strength, above all, begins with knowing your value and refusing to let anyone devalue it. Boundaries. The word itself makes some people uncomfortable because it sounds strict, rigid, even selfish. But the truth is, boundaries are not limitations. They are the framework that transforms your kindness from vulnerability into strength. Without them, your generosity, your patience, your care, all of it can be taken, exploited, and ignored. But with boundaries, every act of kindness you give carries weight. Every gesture of generosity becomes meaningful. Every moment of patience becomes respected rather than taken for granted. Think about it this way. If you are always available, if you never say no, if you never assert what is acceptable and what is not, people begin to treat your kindness as a commodity. They expect it. They take it without consideration. They assume that your energy, your time, your heart are limitless resources that exist solely for their use. And when that happens, the very thing you believed made you good, made you noble, now becomes a tool for others to undermine you. Your softness becomes their advantage. Your compassion becomes their entitlement. But boundaries change everything. Boundaries are not walls. They are definitions of self-respect. They communicate without needing to shout what is acceptable and what is not. They are the invisible lines that teach people how to treat you. Well, someone encounters your boundaries. They are confronted with a simple truth. You value yourself enough to protect your energy, your time, your peace, and when you value yourself, others are forced to adjust. They are forced to meet you at the level you have set. That is power. That is authority. That is respect. The mistake most people make is thinking that kindness and boundaries are mutually exclusive. They think that if they enforce limits, they will be seen as harsh, cold, or unkind. But the opposite is true. Boundaries give your kindness structure and meaning. They make your generosity intentional rather than reactive. They ensure that your patience is not mistaken for weakness. They guarantee that your help is valued because it is earned rather than assumed. A person without boundaries may give endlessly, but it is often wasted. A person with boundaries gives deliberately, and every gift carries significance. Consider the psychological dimension for a moment. Human beings naturally test limits. We instinctively probe for weaknesses in others. If you consistently allow people to cross your lines, to overstep, to exploit, your brain sends a signal to theirs. There is no consequence here. You are safe to take advantage. That is why some people never seem to respect kindness. They have been conditioned by weakness. But when you enforce boundaries, when you demonstrate that certain behaviors are unacceptable, you activate a different response. People adjust, they recalibrate. They begin to treat you differently. Not because they fear you, but because they recognize that your kindness has structure, that it is guided by principle, and that it cannot be taken for granted. Boundaries also protect your internal state. Kindness is a beautiful quality, but it is finite. Your energy is finite. Your emotional bandwidth is finite. If you do not protect it, you will inevitably become depleted. You will feel resentful, exhausted, frustrated, and unappreciated. This is why boundaries are not just about controlling others. They are about protecting yourself. They are about ensuring that your kindness does not drain you, but instead replenishes you and those who truly deserve it. They are about creating a life where your generosity is a source of joy, not a burden. The power of boundaries extends into every area of life. In personal relationships, boundaries ensure that your love, your care, your support is respected and reciprocated. In professional settings, boundaries make sure that your time, effort, and expertise are valued rather than exploited. In friendships, boundaries clarify the nature of the relationship: who gives, who takes, who supports, who respects. Without boundaries, every act of kindness risks being misunderstood, undervalued, or abused. With boundaries, every act becomes meaningful, intentional, and respected. Many people hesitate to set boundaries because they fear rejection or conflict. They fear that saying no or asserting limits will push people away. But the truth is, the people who truly matter, the people worth your time, attention, and care, will respect those boundaries. Those who cannot respect them were never aligned with your values, never deserving of your generosity, and never intended to honor your kindness. Setting boundaries is not about exclusion, it is about alignment. It is about creating a space where your kindness has impact, where it is appreciated, and where it cannot be exploited. Boundaries also foster self-confidence. Every time you enforce a limit, every time you assert what is acceptable and what is not, you reinforce your own sense of worth. You teach yourself, quietly but powerfully, that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. This internal strength radiates outward. People sense it, they feel it, and they adjust their behavior accordingly. Respect is rarely given to those who do not enforce it, and kindness rarely inspires admiration without the structure that boundaries provide. Think about the difference in interactions between someone who gives endlessly without limits and someone who gives thoughtfully with clear boundaries. The first person is often exhausted, frustrated, taken for granted, and sometimes even resented. Their kindness is assumed, expected, and exploited. The second person is calm, confident, respected, and appreciated. Their generosity carries significance because it is intentional. Their patience is valued because it is bounded. Their kindness becomes a reflection of strength, not weakness. Ultimately, boundaries turn kindness into a weapon of influence, a tool of respect, and a source of personal power. Without them, kindness is easily mistaken for weakness. With them, it becomes irresistible, magnetic, and commanding. People are drawn to it, inspired by it, and motivated to meet it with integrity rather than exploitation. Boundaries do not diminish your humanity, they elevate it. They ensure that your heart, your energy, and your generosity are never wasted, and that your kindness is always impactful. So remember this: kindness without boundaries is vulnerability. Boundaries without kindness are rigidity. The combination of the two, strength and compassion, firmness and generosity, is where true influence lies. It is where people stop walking over you. It is where your kindness becomes meaningful. It is where your life begins to reflect the value you have always carried but may have struggled to protect. The world will challenge your limits. It will test your patience. It will push against your boundaries. And that is exactly why you must stand firm. Not out of anger, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. Your kindness deserves structure. Your generosity deserves intention. Your patience deserves respect. And the moment you internalize that, the moment you live it, the moment you enforce it without apology, your kindness becomes untouchable, your influence undeniable, and your respect inevitable. Boundaries, D. O, not make you less kind. They make you stronger. They do not limit your love. They protect it. They do not diminish your generosity. They give it weight. And when you understand this, when you embody it, the world begins to treat your kindness the way it always should have been treated, with respect, with consideration, and with admiration. Your kindness is most powerful when it has structure. Protect it, honor it, define it, and watch as the world finally honors you in return. Understanding your self-worth is not optional. It is the foundation upon which every act of kindness, every boundary you set, every ounce of respect you command rests. Without self-worth, kindness is hollow. Without self-worth, boundaries are shaky. Without self-worth, respect is fleeting. And yet, so many people live their lives without truly valuing themselves, without recognizing their own importance, and without understanding that their inner measure of worth dictates the way the world treats them. Think about it carefully. How often have you seen someone compromise, overextend, or tolerate disrespect, all while believing that being good or kind is enough to protect them? They give their time, their energy, their patience, their support, yet the world doesn't give it back in kind. Why? Because the world does not respond to kindness alone. The world responds to strength, to clarity, to self-respect. People sense who honors themselves and who does not, often before a single word is spoken. Self-worth is the silent signal that communicates without ego or aggression that you are not to be diminished, disrespected, or undervalued. When you recognize your value, everything changes. Suddenly you see the difference between those who appreciate your kindness and those who take it for granted. You start to understand that your energy is finite and precious, and that giving it away indiscriminately only depletes you. You begin to measure your generosity not by how much you can give to anyone who asks, but by how much can be given where it is respected, where it is reciprocated, and where it has meaning. Your kindness gains a new depth. It becomes intentional, focused, and powerful. Self-worth also teaches you to stop tolerating disrespect. Many people excuse the behavior of those who walk over them, manipulate them, or undervalue them, often out of fear of conflict, fear of being alone, or fear of losing approval. But when you truly understand your value, these fears lose their power. You realize that allowing disrespect is not a sacrifice. It is a concession of your own power. And once you refuse to tolerate it, the world begins to take notice. People adjust because they sense that your kindness, patience, and generosity are no longer endless resources to be taken. They are deliberate acts given by someone who knows what they deserve. There is a psychological principle at play here. Humans naturally test the limits of others. When people sense insecurity, weakness, or uncertainty in your self-perception, they are more likely to push, manipulate, and take advantage. But when your self-worth is evident, when your confidence is grounded in reality rather than ego, people instinctively adjust. They do not need to be coerced into respect. It becomes an automatic response. Your value is communicated without words, without demands, without force. It is simply known. This does not mean arrogance or entitlement. True self-worth is quiet, not loud. It is measured, not boastful. It does not demand attention, it commands it. People respect those who honor themselves, not because they assert superiority, but because they embody integrity, consistency, and discernment. When your actions, choices, and boundaries reflect the value you place on yourself, respect follows naturally. Your kindness is no longer seen as weakness. It is admired, appreciated, and sought after. Self-worth also reshapes the way you interact with others. When you know your value, you stop trying to please everyone. You stop compromising your principles for approval. You stop giving your energy to those who do not respect it. And in doing so, you create a ripple effect. People begin to treat you according to the standard you have set. They recognize that your time is valuable, your energy is finite, and your presence is significant. The relationships that remain in your life after you claim your worth are the ones that truly matter, those that are aligned, reciprocal, and meaningful. Consider this: people often chase the wrong signals. They chase compliance, availability, and endless generosity, mistaking them for kindness. They fail to recognize the power of self-worth because it is subtle, quiet, and deliberate. Self-worth does not scream, it is understood, it is felt, and it is the difference between being taken for granted and being truly respected, between being drained by others and being empowered, between being used and being valued. Your self-worth also impacts your internal state. When you understand and honor your value, you no longer carry the resentment, frustration, and exhaustion that comes from giving too much to those who do not deserve it. Your kindness is not a source of burden. It is a source of pride and satisfaction. Your energy is preserved for growth, for meaningful connections, and for experiences that elevate your life rather than deplete it. You are no longer reactive to the world. You are intentional. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the architect of your experience. Self-worth reinforces every other lesson we've discussed. Boundaries are meaningful only when you value yourself enough to enforce them. Respect is earned only when you refuse to tolerate anything less than it. Kindness is powerful only when it is guided by the awareness of your own significance. Without self-worth, all these strategies are hollow. They are acts without foundation, gestures without impact. With self-worth, they become pillars of a life lived with dignity, influence, and integrity. And here is the ultimate insight: people will only ever treat you as you allow them to treat you. Your self-worth dictates the rules of engagement. If you are unsure of your value, if you fail to claim it, the world will step over you, underestimate you, and undervalue your presence. But once you recognize it, claim it, and embody it in every interaction, the world adjusts. People respect the person who respects themselves. People value the person who understands their worth. People admire the person whose kindness is intentional and whose boundaries are firm. So, what does this mean for you? It means that everything begins within. No amount of external validation, flattery, or applause can replace the power of genuine self-worth. You must know your value, claim it, and protect it. You must refuse to allow anyone to diminish it. You must act consistently with the understanding that your life, your energy, and your heart are precious resources, not to be squandered on those who do and respect them. And when you do this, you do not merely survive, you thrive. You do not merely exist. You command presence, influence, and admiration. Let this be your guide. Self-worth is the foundation of respect, the anchor of boundaries, and the secret behind effective kindness. When you honor your value, everything else falls into place. Your kindness is powerful, your boundaries are strong, your interactions are meaningful, and the world begins to recognize the force that you are. Self-worth is not optional, it is essential. Claim it, protect it, live it, and watch as the world finally honors you the way you deserve.